David sat at the corner table of the upscale restaurant, adjusting his burgundy shirt for the third time. At 37, he hadn't been on a date in almost 4 years, not since Melissa died. His hands felt clammy, and he wondered, not for the first time that evening, if this was a mistake. His sister had set this up. "You need to start living again," she'd said. "It's been 3 years, David. Melissa would want you to be happy. And your daughter needs to see her father smile again." Little Sophie was 7 now, spending the evening with her grandmother. "Have fun, Daddy," she'd said, kissing his cheek as he left. She'd been so young when Melissa passed that her memories were fading, something that broke David's heart in new ways every day. The restaurant hummed with quiet conversation and soft jazz. David checked his watch. She was 5 minutes late. Maybe she wouldn't show up. Part of him felt relief at the thought. Then he saw her walking toward him, guided by the hostess. His breath caught in his throat. His hand flew to his mouth. She wore a fitted cream-colored dress, her brown hair pulled back in a ponytail that swayed as she walked. But it wasn't the dress or the hair. It was her face, the shape of her eyes, the curve of her smile, the way she carried herself. She looked exactly like Melissa. David felt the room tilt. He gripped the edge of the table, trying to steady himself. This couldn't be happening. It had to be some kind of cruel cosmic joke. The woman reached the table, her smile faltering as she saw his expression. "Hi, I'm Nicole," she said, extending her hand. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." The word ghost hit him like a punch. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I'm sorry," he managed to say. "I can't. This is a mistake." Nicole's smile vanished, replaced by confusion and hurt. "Did I do something wrong? I know I'm a few minutes late." "Bhutan, no," David interrupted, shaking his head. "You didn't do anything wrong. I'm sorry, I have to go." He grabbed his jacket and walked quickly toward the exit, leaving Nicole standing alone by the table, bewildered and embarrassed in front of the other diners. David made it to his car before the shaking started. He gripped the steering wheel, breathing hard, his eyes stinging with tears. He hadn't allowed himself to cry in months. Seeing Nicole had been like having Melissa walk back into his life for one impossible moment, only to remember all over again that she was gone. His phone rang. His sister, "Lauren, you left?" she said when he answered. "David, Nicole just called me. She's devastated." "What happened?" "She looks exactly like Melissa," David said quietly. I couldn't do it." There was a long pause. "Oh, David," Lauren said softly. "I had no idea. I've never met Nicole in person, just talked to her. She's a friend of my colleague. I know it wasn't fair to her," David said. "But I looked at her face and all I could see was everything I'd lost. I couldn't breathe." "Stay there," Lauren said. "I'm calling Nicole back." "Don't leave yet." 20 minutes later, David was still sitting in his car when he saw Nicole emerge from the restaurant. She looked around the parking lot, spotted his car, and walked over. He rolled down the window, unable to meet her eyes. "Your sister explained some things," Nicole said gently. She wasn't angry, which somehow made David feel worse. "I'm so sorry about your wife." "I'm the one who should apologize," David replied. "That was incredibly rude of me." "You didn't deserve that." Nicole leaned against the car, looking up at the evening sky. "Can I tell you something? I lost my husband 2 years ago. Car accident. We didn't have children, but we'd been trying. When he died, I thought my life was over." David finally looked at her. Really looked at her. Yes, she resembled Melissa, but now he could see the differences too. The way her nose turned up slightly at the end, the small scar above her left eyebrow, the way her eyes held their own unique sadness. "Lauren mentioned that I apparently look like your late wife," Nicole continued. "I can't imagine how that must have felt, seeing me walk toward you. But I want you to know, I understand grief. I understand how it sneaks up on you in unexpected moments, how it makes you want to run." "I shouldn't have run," David said quietly. "Maybe not," Nicole agreed, "but I get it. Grief makes us do things that don't always make sense." She paused. "Can I ask you something? Did running make you feel better?" David thought about that. "No, he admitted. It made me feel like a coward. Nicole smiled sadly. I felt the same way the first time I tried to go on a date. I made it through dinner but cried the whole way home. It felt like I was betraying him just by trying to move forward. They sat in silence for a moment, two people who understood each other's pain in a way most people couldn't. What if, Nicole said slowly, we tried this again? Not as a date, just as two people who've been through similar things, having dinner and talking. No expectations, no pressure. David hesitated. Every instinct told him to say no, to drive home, to hide behind his grief where it was safe. But then he thought about Sophie, about how she'd asked him to have fun, about how Melissa would probably be shaking her head at him right now, telling him not to be such a fool. Okay, he said, but I can't promise I won't be terrible company. That's fine, Nicole replied. I can't promise I won't say something awkward. Fair warning, I tend to ramble when I'm nervous. They walked back into the restaurant together. The hostess looked surprised but led them back to the same table. As they sat down, David took a deep breath. I should tell you about Melissa, he said, not because you look like her, but because she was a huge part of my life. And if we're going to talk honestly, that feels like where I need to start. Nicole nodded. And I'll tell you about James. Deal? Over the next 2 hours, they talked. David shared stories about Melissa's laugh, about how she danced in the kitchen while making dinner, about the hole she'd left in his and Sophie's lives. Nicole spoke about James's terrible jokes, about his dream of opening a bookstore, about learning to sleep alone again. They laughed. They cried. They didn't pretend the pain wasn't there. As the evening ended, they stood outside the restaurant. Nicole looked at David thoughtfully. You know what I realized tonight? She said. Melissa and I might look similar, but we're completely different people. And that's okay. You're not looking for her replacement. Neither of us is looking for a replacement. Then what are we looking for? David asked. Nicole considered this. Maybe just someone who understands. Someone who knows that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. Someone who can be patient while we figure out how to be happy again. David felt something shift inside him. Not healing, exactly, but maybe the first small step toward it. Would you like to have coffee sometime? And I promise not to run away this time. Nicole smiled. I'd like that. And maybe, if you're comfortable with it, I could meet Sophie someday. No pressure. Just, I have a feeling we'd get along. 3 months later, David stood in his kitchen making pancakes while Sophie chattered excitedly about the zoo trip planned for that afternoon. Nicole was coming over, and Sophie had been talking about it all week, not as a replacement for her mother, but as someone new who made her father smile again, someone who listened to her stories and didn't mind that she still got sad sometimes. David's phone buzzed with a text from Nicole. Running 5 minutes late. Sophie told me to bring my good walking shoes for the zoo. This girl doesn't mess around. He smiled as he replied. Then he glanced at the photo of Melissa on the shelf, the one where she was laughing, head thrown back in pure joy. I think you'd like her, he said softly to the photo, and I think you would be glad I stopped running. Sophie came into the kitchen and saw him looking at her mother's picture. She slipped her small hand into his. Mommy would be happy you're happy again, she said with the simple wisdom of children. David squeezed her hand. She was right. Moving forward didn't mean leaving Melissa behind. It meant carrying her memory forward while opening his heart to new possibilities, new connections, new love. Sometimes the universe gives us second chances in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes the face that makes us want to run is exactly the face that helps us learn to stand still again. And sometimes, just sometimes, looking like someone from the past is exactly what's needed to help create something new in the present.